Now, after months and weeks of campaigns and intense lobbying, Nigerian federal lawmakers for the 10th Assembly finally got inaugurated yesterday in Abuja with the election of the leadership of the Senate and House of Representatives. Senator Akpabio is now the president of the Senate, with Barao Jibrin elected his deputy, while Tajuddin Abbas was elected Speaker of the House of Representatives with Benjamin Kalu as Deputy Speaker. In a sense, it was a dream come true for the president and the APC, who had both nominated the victorious candidates to the positions they have now been elected to occupy. President Bola Tinubu has already said he will work transparently with the 10th National Assembly to ensure that Nigerians enjoy the dividends of democracy. In a congratulatory letter to members of the Assembly on the successful conduct of elections into the principal positions, Tinubu said that their election signals a new dawn of fulfillment of campaign promises. The president congratulated the new Senate President, Akpabio, and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, on their election by members of the two chambers as President of the Senate and Speaker of the House of Representatives. He also felicitated Abdulaziz Yari, Idris Wase, and Aminu Jaji for enriching the process with their participation in the leadership election. He said that the desires of Nigerians would only be met with collaboration, support, and unity of purpose between the executive and the legislature. Now, our guest this morning is Barrister Evans Ufeli. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, Barrister?
Fine, thank you.
Are you surprised by this outcome?
No, I'm not surprised.
You're not surprised?
I'm not surprised, but I'm very indifferent
Okay.
about, especially the Akpabio angle to it. That's the upper house. Akpabio is emerged as a result of party politicking, not even the National Assembly politicking, and it has a strong contrivance with the executive. Now, it is not a healthy composition that the Senate President or the hands of the executive should be in the process. What we have now is going to be a kind of a repeat of the Ninth Assembly. And you know what the Ninth Assembly means in quotes. The Ninth Assembly absorbed the president's insatiable desire to take loans, even when he has 5 days to leave office. And approvals upon approvals were made. The oversight function was, that is the Ninth Assembly now, was practically jettisoned. And now we have another 10th Assembly that is closely related in terms of political relations to the executive. And that is why the 8th Assembly stood out. The Saraki Assembly held the executive, and we had a robust legislative process outcome in the days by. Today, what we have is I don't see Akpabio as someone who will muster even though it's by vote, even though decisions in the House has to do with contribution of all members, but the president of the Senate weighs a lot of influence through lobbying and all that, and they have a way of doing this thing. I don't see him standing against the executive effectively, much so because the executive in the time past, when he left his party, when he left the PDP to the APC chairman then, Adam Toshimole, came out to tell Nigerians that once you move from any party you are to APC, your sins are forgiven. And since then, the EFCC matter against Akpabio diminished to date. It has never been revisited since he pulled out from PDP when he was a minority leader at the House. Okay, so these are the issues which I find. But I don't want to prejudge him, but I'm looking at precedents.
Okay.
In as much as I cannot analyze the future, the past is what we need. The indices of the past and the antecedents of the past is what we can use as a yardstick for the analysis in the sense like this.
So in essence, you're trying to say that we should see corruption and people trying to cover things up in this administration.
Yeah, not like that is what I'm saying. I'm saying when the chiefs are down, I don't see Akpabio as someone who
Now I'm taking it from the point of view that his sins were wiped off
yes.
when he moved to the party. So I'm saying, should we now see cover up going forward?
Well, you know how politicians play politics. They play politics with favors. You pay favor with favor. You scratch my back, I scratch your back. That is how they play politics. So the tendency that we are going to have this, I mean, let's now, okay, now the House is constituted. The first assignment, the AXI test now is going to be the presentation of ministers, to which we are looking forward to from today onwards, okay, in the next 2-3 weeks. Okay, the persons presented before the House, the way the Senate will go about it, will also take the first shot on them to see how far, who are these
Be
people,
asked to bow and leave, or
yeah,
if
yeah,
questions will be thrown
or
at
whether
them.
they'll
True.
be properly scrutinized and all that. And when you look at it, some of the persons who are going to be scrutinizing them, especially the Senate president now, is one who have had a lot of corruption cases against him. His sins can be forgiven at this stage because he was never convicted or properly tried and convicted. There have been allegations. Okay, you cannot actually hold someone to ransom with allegations of impropriety or corruption, but it's a dent, it's an indictment. It could be true, it could be false, yes. So for someone of that nature, the moral justification to look people in the eyes or to look the executive in the eyes and say this will not pass is what we're talking about. You see, most of the times our political leaders forget that it's representative government, that they are there in representative capacity, that whatever they do should move the life of the citizens forward and not backward.
Do they represent the interests of the people?
They
Because
don't.
they're constituted there to represent the interests of the people, but
That's a very straightforward answer.
it feels like there's a fight to get there to be part of the juicy committees because of the finances that will be allocated to those committees.
Yes.
Literally, if you had watched the process yesterday, the inauguration, those who won were already elated, they were happy. You could see those who supported going to crowd them. Now the idea is this. You remember that there are promises you made. I gave you my support, so you know what to do now that you have gotten there. Do the people understand the power they have over those at the National Assembly?
The people don't understand the power they have. The people are preoccupied with survival. You know, when you see the best way to distract a man is to distort his welfare. Once you distort his welfare, he can no longer catch up with ideologies, anything, either political or social ideology. What he will be preoccupied with is survival, how he will eat. So the people are already sold out. Now we're looking at the politics within the house. You see all those compromises that were made, all the compromises that were made, they were made for reasons and purposes. Some people who stepped down for some persons were promised house leader, committee on this, that. You understand? That is the calculation. So at the end of the day, it's not in the interest of the common man. It's in the interest of these people who are there to represent themselves and then get favor from one person, step down for the other person to move up, so that when the person gets up, he puts me in a committee on oil and gas, a committee where there will be money and all that. So that is what is happening.
And legislatively, the functions and roles of the National Assembly, it's not to be in tandem with the executive most of the time.
It's not.
They're meant to have oversight functions over the executive.
Yes.
It means that they can question whatever implementation the executive wants,
Yes.
whatever proposal that the executive brings.
Yes.
Why do we have a system of parliamentary legislature where it is of utmost importance that the executive has to be in tandem with the legislature?
That is the problem. You see, when the executive becomes so close with the legislature, it's a problem for society. Because what the legislature represents is like the entire population.
True.
The entire population, okay, saying, okay, you want to do this and this, and the entire population will not scrutinize it. But since the whole nation cannot go and scrutinize, we have voted people to represent us. Now they have our mandate. Our allegiance have been donated to them. So they are supposed to take instructions from us. But they don't do that. How many laws have they made that will move the life of the citizens forward? You will have very good legislation that have been trapped there in the National Assembly for a very long time. Because, but if it has to do with a law that will project the image of the leaders. They pass it sometimes in 2 weeks. Okay, so yeah, that is what we are saying. So the people must be the focal point of legislative engagement. So they should know that, and they should tie all their policies, legislation to that purpose. You see, the truth is that those in the National Assembly and those are and they are already in the House of Rep. Many of them are already made. Okay, so their focus should be on how to get the people down there up, pull them up with policy, make their life better. The average Nigerian is not asking for too much. They're just asking for what looks like good living for them, and that is just what they're looking for. But we don't have the leaders that can make that happen. That is why I'm very indifferent about Akpabio's emergence.
Well, the president has said that he will be transparent with the assembly. What do you make of that statement?
That he will be transparent. What does he mean by being transparent with the assembly? I mean, the assembly have an oversight function to protect the citizens, because the essence of the oversight function is to protect wastages. Okay, just like in the previous assembly, where the president, there was a time the president disregarded the National Assembly and moved on security issues to buy Tucano jet and all that. It was gross misconduct, a cause for impeachment. Nobody could. I was the person who raised the issue of impeachment on Channel C. That the president at this point should be impeached. Even the president are shocked. Should be impeached because gross misconduct. You see, separation of power. The powers that the president have is executive powers. The legislature, they have their own power with which they check the president. That is what they call the power of impeachment. That if the president is found wanting, okay, gross misconduct, okay, then they will constitute to impeach it. The people also have powers over the lawmakers. And that is the power of recall. That's how the people check the legislature. And the judiciary also have its own power to check both houses through what they call judicial review.
Do you think over time there is a deliberate effort from those, the National Assembly and the legislature, to make Nigerians ignorant of the power they have to question the National Assembly, those also at the State Assembly, on what their duties and roles are in terms of representing them? Because if you look at when elections are coming up, if you ask the average Nigerian, they're more interested in who becomes the president and possibly the governor of their state.
Yeah.
They don't understand that it goes beyond that. That is the state and the federal level. Also, they had to know those who are representing them at the National Assembly.
Yes.
Now, is it a deliberate effort from possibly the National Orientation Agency or the government itself, or parastatal set up to orientate individuals, from letting them not know the kind of authority vested on them to question and oversee the functions of those that represent them at the National Assembly?
No, there's a lot of distraction. The citizens are supposed to know by education. If you have, that's why we say, okay, invest in education so that you can empower the citizens. Because the more empowered the citizens are, the more enlightened the citizens are, the more difficult it is to cheat them or to undermine them.
Okay. Let me ask you, there was a time, I will recall when we were little, sometimes you will see some men go to the markets, most of these local communities, ask them questions if you know the name of their councillors representing them, or have they been able to communicate with them on their needs. They educate them on having to access this. We've seen that stop.
Yes.
We know that not everyone can have access to education to understand these rights, but it's usually done at the local level. There's an effort from some government agencies
political
to do that.
socialization.
Exactly, that has completely stopped.
It has stopped because there's no effort to have the citizens, to get the citizens to know whatsoever. There's no effort from anywhere, apart from CSOs or maybe NGOs who organize events in local communities. Who else is doing that? Even the lawmakers who have constituency allowance for this purpose, for the purpose of reaching out to their constituency. I mean, most of these lawmakers don't even live in their constituency. They don't live in their state. They don't have any interest in their state. Meanwhile, they say they are representing the people. So it has stopped because People don't have interest. Okay, it is a Nigerian citizen that will reach out himself, find out what it is that is required of him, how we can assess the benefits that accrue to him as a citizen. You know, the citizen must do that, whether they are educated or not. Okay, they should know. In a way, they know. But if you look at them too, most of the times, okay, these people, when they go to the polls, they collect money and just vote anybody that pay them. So vote buying also is a problem there, because the leader who is representing them felt they have been settled during the polls, during the elections. When you talk about stomach infrastructure, people buy rice, give salt, give things like that. Go to the Oba Palace, go to the king, drop this, drop that. The king.
So basically, the people are not. They are not empowered enough to question.
They are not empowered
those
enough.
that have been elected into
yes,
office.
a man that is not. It takes a lot to question authority. I know what I went through when I took my governor to court, the governor of Delta State. In fact, there was a night that I was chased through Okwana Road. I fall into a manhole. This place got torn. It might be that you will see the stitches there. You know, I knew what I went through. That's just one individual. Okay, because I took the governor to court because they were not developing my area. And I get death threats. I get different kind of threat. There was even an open one where I was called that I was offered 300 million naira to drop the case, to pull the case out of court. Yes. I called my community people and I showed them the recordings and all that. So when how many persons are going to turn down that? And then say because you want to project your community or image, they'll call you a mad person. I was called a madman. Okay? So these are the things we are talking about. People need to pull forces.
So how did that go? How did that go?
The matter
I'd like to know.
The matter is still in court.
Oh.
Okay,
so there's a deliberate effort to impoverish the people. When you impoverish them and issues come up like this, they try to compensate with possibly some financial grants, and then they forget about it.
That is it.
Okay,
but when they could not pull that through,
okay,
what they did was they started work.
They started work
in my community. They were working.
That's what I wanted
to
hear actually.
They were working day and night. The schools in my community, they turned it. In fact, they reformed it overnight. These were people who had gone to meet my dad to complain, to say this, but they came around. That is to say the resources are available. But they wanted us to join heads together, to join forces together. Then we just share money and then leave the people. So at the end of the day, you find out that resources that is meant to go around the country to develop all local communities,
in the pockets of a few,
they are available, but people share this money. So how do we stop that? We need more people in the local community, more people to come together to demand accountability from their leaders. Because the resources, when they look at the president, they want this president, that president. I laugh. You don't call your governor to question. You don't call your commissioners to question. Your House of Assembly members, you don't call them to question. So how are you going to have development at the state level? It won't work.
There is something former President Muhammadu Buhari said, even if we can agree collectively that he failed in a lot of areas, but he had always, whenever he needed to address the press or address questions, he had always asked, have you been able to ask your governors questions?
Yes.
Have you asked your local government chairman questions? We at the federal level can do what we can do. We try to do what we can do in terms of allocation. But the right person you should be questioning are those representing you at the state level. So when we say, okay, the federal government most times is because possibly those are the ones so popular for the common man to recall, whereby they don't understand that the state governors and those at the legislature also have a responsibility to play.
Yes.
In regards to that, let's look at the current 10th National Assembly, okay? It's obvious they should know that work has begun.
Yes.
The election of Akpabio, Abbas, Benjamin Kalu is done for yesterday. There's a lot of work to be done. There are a lot of corrupt activities that took place during the last administration, including the 10th Senate. Questions are meant to have been asked in the aviation sector, in the NNPCL as well. These are critical sectors. In the education sector too, because these were sectors that really went through the hurdle during the last administration. Do we see this committee or this assembly being proactive in doing something about it as soon as possible?
That is the issue we're talking about. The leadership of the assembly, okay, we direct the affairs of the assembly. Okay, there are issues that are brought up, and if the leadership, the principal members, are not ready to step on toes, they won't push it. They won't push it further. They will look for other issues and begin to talk about them. Okay, the 10th Assembly. If I were to be in the 10th Assembly, the first issue I will raise is on probing the previous president, especially his activity, his reckless activity, few weeks before he left office. But he stole. It was pure stealing he was doing before he left office. So the 10th Assembly must probe President Buhari.
Do we see?
It's
Do we
important.
think they would do that? Do you
They
see
ought
the
to do
10th
that.
Assembly doing
If
that?
they don't do that, the people should congregate and record them. At least, if you are not even able to record, at least start something. Give a reason why you want to record it, that they should go and probe the previous.
Former President Muhammadu Buhari showed immense support towards the current president. So, do you think the current president would, foster?
I'm talking about the president of the Senate.
That's what I'm saying. The president of the Senate and the president are in tandem. The president actually once selected the Senate president.
Yeah, that's the problem I'm talking about. That's why I say I'm indifferent to this Akpabio thing. Because it will not work. They will not be able to probe the past president. They won't be able to do that.
No, that's I think that is preempting them, because they might still go ahead. They might still.
Well, you are giving them the benefit of the doubt.
Yes.
Yeah, but
let's give them the benefit of the doubt.
Maybe we should remind them to do that. That is important, because you don't just do the kind of recklessness and we saw before he left office is quite bad. And then the aviation sector, the man is on TV now explaining some. I don't understand what he was explaining on TV.
He's saying that they asked him for money. The House of Rep member that is probing the matter, Nolan Naji, asked for a percentage of money, and that's basically why that probe is coming up. Meanwhile, that one is denying and saying it's a man who is sinking.
I tell you that I've had a case before them at the National Assembly, the House of Rep. And I was asked to go and bring money. I said it here before. I was asked to go and bring money in euros.
So there's a truth in what Hadisirika said.
And they said the truth. Is the truth now? You see these committees.
But how do you think that will affect this matter, this case now? Well, there's no case exactly, but
if money is collected, it will affect the proceedings. So, you remember the case of Lawan, Femi Otedola and Lawan?
Yes.
On the 2012, Farouk Lawan, on the 2012 subsidy probe. You see what went through now. This is the chairman asking. He was even the one calling, say, because before the people, everybody need to get their money before, once they get this money like this, they will just keep romancing the issue. And because they know that Nigerians will forget soon. So they will just, before they will submit one report, the report will miss and all that. As we speak now, there's a problem in the NDIC. As we speak now, there's a problem. The act that was signed is different from the one that was passed. So they just put it for the president. Just he was not even interested.
He didn't look at it. He didn't read it.
He was looking for loan that period. All the other things were just signed. He was looking for loan that period. So that is the problem we have. That this country have enough resources to go around. I'm telling you the truth. We have enough resources, but mismanagement. We have the wrong people.
But looking at that
governance.
Look, if you look at that, shouldn't we blame the advisors of the president for allowing him? I mean, I would want to believe there's a lot on his table. So maybe he feels, okay, if you guys have gone through the papers, bring it for me to sign. But the advisors, those closest to him, shouldn't they have gone through it?
You don't blame. It's vicarious liability in law. We call it vicarious. You don't blame the staff. You cannot hold the staff accountable. It's the employer that will be liable for the inactions of the staff or the malfeasance of the staff. It's vicarious liability. So the principal ought to scrutinize whatever they bring to him. He's not supposed to rubber stamp whatever is brought to him. He's supposed to scrutinize it. So the liability still falls to the president. And the 10th Assembly should probe President Buhari. It's very important. They should probe him so that we'll understand what really transpired. Because you know that Emefiele is already talking now.
He's singing, yes.
That was releasing 500 billion every month to the Minister for Finance for her to fight poverty. That's how he put it. Yes. For her to, there's the way he put it, say, for her fight against poverty every month.
for her fight against poverty.
Yes.
And she wasn't giving us an audit of what the monies was being used for, which communities those monies were used to alleviate poverty.
Alleviate poverty. We didn't see any community. We didn't see anything. They said they were feeding school children. During the COVID lockdown, they brought out expenses they made. During the lockdown, the children were at home. Meanwhile, government said they were feeding them. So you see, this country, the 10th Assembly have a lot of work to do. In fact, they need the first 6 months to probe all the ministers of the previous.
Now that Emefiele is already giving, I'm sure this is the tip of the iceberg. This is just the beginning. Do you think that they are going to probe the Minister of Finance? Already, don't you think that there could be persons who are trying to see how maybe possibly this question, this committee set up to probe may eventually go silent?
They're invited by EFCC already now. I mean, three of the ministers, have invitations already from the EFCC. But I'm saying that the EFCC investigation is not enough. The National Assembly should go and oversight that, so that they have submit their report to the EFCC, the law enforcement agency, their findings. Then let the law enforcement agency consolidate on their investigation, and then charge these people to court so that you can convict them, because their actions are a crime against humanity. If you waste money, use money wrongly, even if you did not embezzle, you use it wrongly, it's not an offense.
All right. Well, we have a guest joining us virtually. That's the person of Medina Sambo, who was once a member of the National Assembly. Medina Sambo, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
We were working on your visuals so we could see you. And
what did you notice yesterday, Medina?
What actually happened yesterday was, normally sitting starts from 10 o'clock. Well, yesterday it was a different story. The sitting took place yesterday around 8:30. And some senators said they were even there as early as 4 a.m. yesterday.
They were eager to work.
So one wonder what was going to happen, that they had to think 8 a.m. yesterday, which was very, very unusual. There were heavy security though, and they were thinking maybe the Saraki regime will replace itself yesterday. That was why they had to make it in a hurry to sit yesterday as early as 8 a.m.
All right.
That was what was different, but the election went on well. There was no rancor. Everybody had to accept the result of the elections both ways. You had some of the senators that we spoke with said we were going to see that the 10th Senate is a different ballgame from the 9th Senate.
All right then. Thank you for the observations. Thank you for your comments. Now, a lot of conversation has been around these senates that were handpicked. Wasn't this the zoning that Nigerians have been clamoring for?
Come again.
What we are seeing now, or what we saw yesterday, wasn't it the zoning that Nigerians have been clamoring for?
Let's wait and see what will happen at the 10th Senate. One time now for now. Let's see, maybe give them some within 2 or 3 months and see whether there's going to be anything that Nigerians are expecting from them. But then a lot of things, they know that a lot of people are expecting changes from them this time.
All right, and our guest in the studio, Barrister Evan Tufeli, made a point here. He said it would be appropriate for the 10th Assembly to probe President
Tinubu.
No, Buhari. Yes, it will be appropriate for the Assembly to probe President Buhari. Now, do you think that is something that can happen?
For me, I don't think that's what you. Because a lot of things are on ground for them to start, working on, so that they see that this administration is a different way from what we had during the Buhari administration. But what we should also be looking at is, will the Akpabio administration be different from the Lawal administration? Because a lot of them are the Akpabio might not be carrying all of them along. But then we want to see what will happen by constituting their committees now that when we now know that whether they are going to be probing. But for me, I don't think the necessary thing at this right time. The only person they can probe is the person they already suspended, which is the CBN governor. That's the person should be probed, because we are talking about the same political party this time around. They are not different from Buhari did and what Tinubu will be doing now. But the probing should not be necessary thing at this point in time.
Okay.
All right then. Let's do a comparison now. Let's compare the 9th Assembly and so far what we can see in the 10th Assembly. Can you do some sort of comparison for us?
Assembly, they have come and gone. The 10th Assembly, what the 9th Assembly were able to do differ from what the 8th Assembly did was changing the budget system. Also, some other things they did, they passed more bills than the 8th Assembly. But the 10th Assembly now, they know that they have a lot of tasks to do. Like oversighting at the 9th Assembly was lacking. I believe the 10th Assembly will be able to pick that up and build on their oversight. They should be able to oversight their constituency, their projects, where the committees belong. Because in the 9th Assembly, oversight was very silent. I believe the Akpabio-led Senate will look into that area of oversighting this time around. About campaign. They know they said, like some of the senators I interviewed yesterday said, it's going to be a different thing for assembly. We pray so and we hope so. Oh. That's what we are all praying for, and that's what we are hoping to see, a difference from what we had in the 9th Assembly. But now we cannot say what will happen at the 10th Assembly. Let's just keep our fingers crossed and see what is going to be happening at the 10th Assembly.
Okay, well, if you're saying it's going to be different, is it regardless of the fact that the leadership of the Assembly now was basically anointed? Would they still want to speak against?
Even the 9th Assembly was anointed.
Sure.
The leadership of the 9th Assembly too was anointed. It is a procedure. That's what they do. The party bring up with somebody they know that they can work with. They believe they can work with, and they can do whatever they want to do, in government. They bring them on board to become leaders at the chambers. So this is not a different board. It's still the same thing we have. But then what we have to commend Yari, Senator Yari actually put up a good defense. 46 votes compared to what Akpabio had.
63.
Actually did a good work. And it was really, really hard that he was going to win these the 10th Senate. But then the party says no, this is what they want, and that's what they had.
All right. Medina, were you able to speak with any of the senators and legislatures yesterday based on...
Actually, I did.
Okay, please, what were their responses to the questions that you asked?
We're just promising we are going to work together, we are going to have this together, no problem. We'll work together with the Akpabio-led president, and let's see what will happen at the... Let's keep our fingers crossed and see what will be happening in the future.
Medina, if the president hadn't interfered in how or who would become the Senate president, do you think we would have seen a different outcome? Do you think that Yari would have actually won?
I was not expecting a different thing yesterday.
We didn't get that.
What did you say? Okay, we seem to be having a network glitch there. I wanted to know, I really wanted to understand if the president hadn't intervened, because the disparity wasn't so much between Akpabio and Yari.
Yes.
So if the president hadn't done the lobbying and trying to see how he could influence the decision, exactly, there is a strong tendency that Yari would have come out on top.
Yes, but it would have also led to a mismatch. Because if you look at the president, the vice president, the construction in terms of zoning, so I believe that the upper hand is what he got. But one thing that was striking that I saw yesterday was during the interview when Lawan, the previous Senate president, was interviewed. And I was surprised he was talking about how he's going to offer mentorship. And I'm like, which mentorship is he going to provide here? Because that is the problem we have. This is someone who didn't even contest the election. The election that brought him back. He didn't contest the election. We don't know what happened to the court and the system and the water that went under the bridge. Now he wants to provide, yes, Ahmed Lawan. Now he wants to provide mentorship for the distance. So, I mean, his administration was, like you heard what Bettina said, that oversight was silent. And that is the reason, that's the main reason for Parliament.
I would like us to watch the response of Benjamin Kalu and Tajuddin during an interview yesterday, what they said about what they would do with their administration, because it's equal to what Medina actually said. You know, where they talked about the fact that they would try to run an all-inclusive system, a system that may not be partisan, and that Nigerians should expect that collaborative effort. But then it's a different thing to say. I hope we can be able to watch them and see possibly the sincerity in what they said.
Right from day one, when we started this campaign, it was always good. But the impact of social media, propaganda of some of the contestants distorted the entire picture of what was on the ground. But to God be the glory. Today, people have seen our level of popularity and acceptance by our members, and it has put to shame those who always thought that we were imposed by the party and that we don't have the numbers. Today, people have seen that we have established a record that has never been established in the past. 353 out of 359 members electing us. It is unprecedented. It has never, ever happened in the history of Parliament. Right. If you talk about rubber stamp, look at the acceptance rate, those who have elected us across party lines. Almost all the whole entire PDP, SDP, ADC, and all other minority parties voted us. So if they felt that we are going to be rubber stamps, do you think they will elect us? No. They believe that we will safeguard the sanctity of the National Assembly, the legislature. We will always separate our independence, and we will relate and be able to harmonize with the executive where necessary, but where there is a conflict of interest, where we feel that the executive is or wants to do something that is not against, is not in the interest of the public, they know that we'll stand up against that.
Congratulations. The constituencies in the Federal Republic canvassing for votes. We promise that we're going to ensure that nation building remains a joint task that will not be left only for the executive or the judiciary to handle. We promise that we are going to be there to make sure we add our own bricks to the nation building wall. And these will extend to creation of jobs, reduction of poverty, policies that goes into enhancing our energy sources, policies that will help us create more local content usage in this country, manufacturing that will help us reduce importation and increase exportation, that will stimulate our economy. And as you see in the past 15 days, Mr. President has been taking the right decisions, on issues. We want to sustain that through legislative support, legislative intervention.
So, Barrister Evans, based on what they said, do you believe it? Are they eschewing the aura that indeed we're going to do what we're saying we're going to do? Because from what Benjamin Kalu was, I literally felt like, I don't know if you feel the same way.
Kalu has always been a very smooth talker. He represents Abbas, right? Mm-hmm. Yes, he talks very well, and talk is cheap. He's been in the house for a very long time. He's been there for a very long time. So it's not what he's saying today that will change the course of Nigeria's history. It's what they have been able to do before now. Have they been able to do half of what he just said now? or even a quarter of what he has just said now. With the resources they've had before, with the powers they have under the law. Okay, so I think our leaders should reduce promises. Yes, they should reduce promises because they make promises they don't keep these promises. So they should just go and work, okay, and see, let the people feel them working. Let's have bill. At least let's have a bill that will guarantee public health care, that will guarantee social support system. Just like the president signed the loan whatever bill. And I told somebody yesterday, I said, see, this legislation will become nothing if you don't create meritocracy across board. So if you give a student a loan and he comes out from school and he's still not able to work in NNPC or CBN or any of those juicy places where they're using inequalities to put their own people there, then what happens? So if we're going to have a law on welfare, let's have social support systems, let us have meritocracy, security, public health care. Let's have a credit system, and let's have all the indices, the 5 indices. So when we have it, that's the only way to work. But if we like put us in the board, create an educational bank, that's what they say they will do. If there is no meritocracy, we are still back to square one.
All right then. Now, did you see a video that came online yesterday after the inauguration, where Speaker Tajuddin Abbas was trying to, take his oath of office, and his wives were on display.
Yes.
One wife was there, another one came and basically shoved her aside. Like
an interesting drama.
That was, and the talk was that like a man who hasn't put his home in order. Who hasn't, who is not Lord, by Lord I mean that, as in control of his home, how will he be in control of the affairs of the country?
Well, but I feel that was the impropriety. That impropriety is, I think the women were insensitive.
Exactly.
I will blame them because, I saw that and I was wondering, the battle for supremacy in public, it has even, that means that the home must be a war zone. Apparently. Yeah, because that battle was unnecessary.
I am the first wife. I should be here.
Yeah, one person should be, one person should just be there. And perhaps there's no office as such.
They might create one.
They might create one.
They might create one.
It's possible.
The wife of the speaker, the office of the wife of the speaker. We're going to get into a dangerous zone. These women should go and contest elections.
Exactly.
Let them contest election, and like Medina and the rest, women are making waves. So let them just go and contest election. They should not come and do this. It's wrong. It was just like comic relief for us yesterday. I saw that.
Oh well, thank you very much, Emma Tufeli, for coming on the program.